And so thank you everyone for joining us today to this Genesis 2021 Innovation Workshop, Accelerating Market Access for Digital Health and AI Solutions, lesson from Quebec and the UK. So I'm delighted today to have such a great delegation from Quebec who will have a mix of discussion around these market access questions, but also having some companies presenting and representing the great technologies and opportunities for collaborations with Quebec. So as you probably heard when you come in, this session is recorded, which is always a good thing. So then you can share with colleagues or come back to it if you missed some of it. And I will just ask you if you can keep your microphones off and camera off as well, just for the time of the discussion and the presentations as well. We still want that to be interactive. So if you have any comments or questions, if you can drop them in the chat box, they will be picked up by me, and I will pass that to the chair of the day, who is Jean-Christian Lemay from the Government of Quebec in London. And so he will be your host today. Jean-Christian, over to you.
Many thanks, Aline, for the kind introduction. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. My name is Jean-Christian Lemay, and as Aline mentioned, I am the Research and Innovation Attaché at the Quebec Government Office in London. I'm delighted to welcome you to our innovation workshop on accelerating market access for digital health innovation and implementing AI solutions, which I have the pleasure to host. Our event is divided in two parts. First, experts from Quebec and the UK will discuss the opportunities for digital health innovation and how to accelerate the road to implementation. We will then continue with 5 pitches from innovative startups from Quebec. Before we proceed to the panel discussions, I would like to invite Mr. Dominique Toupin, Acting Chargé d'Affaires at the Quebec Government Office in London, and Mr. Damien Pereira, Advisor for International Affairs at Quebec's Ministry for Economy and Innovation, to say a few words.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Christian. Mesdames et messieurs les conférenciers et modérateurs, distinguished guests, bonjour à tous et à toutes. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à cet événement virtuel. Je tiens d'emblée à remercier les conférenciers et les modérateurs d'avoir accepté notre invitation à participer à cet atelier. Le temps que vous nous consacrez aujourd'hui et votre expertise que vous acceptez de partager avec nous sont extrêmement appréciés. I am delighted to welcome you all to this innovation workshop ahead of One Nucleus Genesis conference. Like Jean-Christian mentioned, I represent the Quebec Government Office in London. I am the Chargé d'Affaires and Director of Economic Affairs. We have had an office here in London since 1962. We cover not only the UK, but also the Republic of Ireland and the Nordic countries. Quebec's healthcare system, like many in the world, draws its inspiration from the UK's NHS. Single-player healthcare systems like ours present similar opportunities and face comparable challenges. Although they have a lot in common, our healthcare systems are nonetheless different enough that sharing best practices can prove particularly fruitful. I am especially looking forward to the next segment where the panelists from Quebec and the UK will explore market access for digital health innovation. Both Quebec and the UK are world leaders on fundamental and clinical research in the life sciences. Our researchers, both in academia and research hospitals, are leading the way in many subsectors of pharmaceuticals, health biotechnology, contract research, manufacturing, or medical technology. Quebec highly values the translation of its research through innovative startups, such as the ones featured in the last segment. I think complementarity is the key word for the Quebec-UK relationship in the life sciences. We share similar healthcare systems, and I can take pride in the excellence of our own researchers and clinicians. Before I conclude please allow me to highlight three of my colleagues at the Quebec Government Office in London who can help you seize those opportunities. Eric Kuchaski, who can help you set up activities in Quebec. Jean-Christian Lemay, who can support you in establishing partnerships in research and innovation and supports startups from Quebec. Patrick Philippe, who can help you connect with great solutions from Quebec. All three of them will attend Genesis in person, and please feel free to reach out to them. I would like to thank One Nucleus for organizing Genesis and these innovation workshops, and Damien and Jean-Christian for putting together this one in particular. Finally, I would also like to thank you all for your participation and wish you an excellent workshop. Merci beaucoup et bon webinaire.
Merci Dominique. Good morning, good afternoon. Bonjour à tous. Damien Perrin, International Affairs Advisor at the Ministry of Economy and Innovation here in Quebec. Our mission at the Ministry is to promote cross-border innovation, helping research organizations to identify partners in foreign markets and to support our startup ecosystem in order to introduce their solution to new potential partners. We work closely with a network of 33 Quebec government delegations all around the world, and I'd like to thank first our Quebec Government Office in London, Jean-Christian Lemay and Dominique Toupin, along with our partner for this workshop today, Prompt Innovation and TransmedTech Institute. Today you will hear great discussion from experts from both UK and Quebec and 5 great digital health innovation made in Quebec. So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you'll get some key takeout after this event to initiate new partnership and new collaboration between our territories. So thank you, merci beaucoup à tous, et Jean-Christian, the floor is yours.
Many thanks, Dominique and Damien. I'm now delighted to hand over to Mr. Frédéric Bove, Executive Director at Prompt, Quebec's Applied Research Cluster in Information and Communications Technology, who will moderate the panel. Frédéric, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jean-Christian. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Damien, here in live in Montreal. And I really want to say hello to all your UK in the audience in the UK right now. And thank you very much for asking me to moderate this panel. This very panel aims to provide the audience with a better understanding of the requirements, barriers, opportunities and regulatory environment in both Quebec and the UK. We have experts with us this morning. Well, morning for me, afternoon for you. We already went through this journey, and we will be happy to share key lessons to accelerate development and implementation in a clinical setting. I really want to open the panel. I will shoot the first question to all of you, dear friends. Could you introduce yourself first, simply, and introduce your organization missions, please? So I will ask maybe first to open to Susie Hassan. Hello, Susie. Good morning. Good
Hello, hi, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Susie Ali Hassan, Deputy Director of Commercial and Innovation at UCL Partners. UCL Partners is an academic health science system. So it's made up of 20 NHS acute centres, 9 universities, 6 integrated care systems, and covers a population of over 6 million people. So it's quite a large innovation ecosystem. And as an organisation, we're very much focused on health innovation, supporting the NHS transform, make change. And that's both through technology, but also through improvement programmes as well. And we've got a broad focus on population health. Generally, my team supporting commercial industry access to the NHS. So we support industry and technology companies understand the NHS better, build up an evidence base to support adoption and eventual procurement by the NHS. So looking forward today to talking a little bit more about that and learning a bit more about the Quebec health system as well.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Marie-Pierre Fort from TransmedTech.
Thank you all for the invitation and good afternoon. My name is Marie-Pierre Fort and I am the Deputy Director at TransmedTech Institute. A few words about TransmedTech. TransmedTech has been established in 2017 thanks to a major grant from Canada First Excellency Funds, the Ministry of Economy and Industry, as well as the Fond de Recherche, to add to that the contribution of many other foundations and institutions. Transmedtech itself is a regroupment in Montreal of two universities, Polytechnique and Montreal University, with the addition of 3 hospitals. One is where we are located, me and Philippe today, which is the CHU Saint-Justine for Mother and Child. We are at the CHUM, which is a major hospitals on the Montreal University umbrella, and the Geneva General Hospital, which is more McGill Hospitals umbrella as well. As Transmedtech, we're a living lab in hospitals, and our mission is to support the development of innovative medical technology that meets the needs of the user and the healthcare environment in order to facilitate their implementation in the healthcare systems. And as a university, we're training the next generation of high qualified professionals in the medtech field to support the industry and the innovation community.
Thank you, Marie-Pierre. We have also from Montreal, Philippe Jouvet from CHU Saint-Justine. I would like to introduce yourself and Saint-Justine, please, Philippe.
Yes, thank you for the invitation to this workshop. I am a clinical researcher, intensivist, leading a lab on clinical decision support system using artificial intelligence. I'm also the deputy director of a research center at Saint-Justine Hospital. And our goal in my role and the role of the research center at Saint-Justine is to develop and implement solutions to help in the management of children and mothers. It's not focused only on this population. We are also a living lab to develop, to test and implement technology also for adults. So that's probably why you choose me for this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. And last but not least, Tom, directly from UK. I'll let you introduce yourself and your organization and your skills.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to talk on today's panel. So my name is Tom Wake. Really, I have about 10 years experience working in the NHS in a variety of areas, from health education to large-scale transformation programs, covering broad geographic footprints. My experience really has been working across commissioning and provider networks, but also more recently working with technology companies and other NHS healthcare organizations to navigate the healthcare system, implement innovations, and get them deployed where possible. Most recently, I've been supporting technology companies as a freelancer, so as an independent consultant in the UK, but working internationally with tech companies in Canada.
Thank you, Tom. So you understand all that we are all support innovation at all stages of development. And we are keen to ensure that a special relationship continue to support cross-border innovation and opportunities from our innovators, both in UK and both in North America. So that will lead me to my first question to all of you. What are the main challenges you see in deploying innovation in the healthcare system? And I will ask you, Tom, because you said you navigate through the NHS system. So it seems also that it's kind of an adventure, a journey first. But then considering innovation, that it was another one of another adventure by itself, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, a great adventure, you could call it. My experience in this area really started when I worked at NHSX, and part of my role there was to help support small to medium-sized enterprises to ultimately navigate the NHS. Organizations that are trying to innovate and deploy their solutions in the NHS often really struggle to navigate it. It's a very complex system made up of thousands of different organizations. It changes with each of our governments and continues to change and iterate over time. So helping organizations to navigate that kind of structure and bureaucracy was one of my main kind of roles, and it's something that I still do. And I think that's one of the main challenges that organizations often face when trying to collaborate in the NHS, where to start. So I would say that's one of the main challenges first of all.
And for the point, for deploying innovation in the healthcare system, is that difficult at this very time for you? What is the main challenges you face?
I think one of the biggest challenges at the moment is kind of around culture and risk aversion, particularly around patient identifiable data. So organizations are often very careful as custodians of their data to ensure that they are kind of protecting the interests of their population in line with regulatory requirements such as GDPR when we're talking about Europe. And it's an important area that organizations wanting to work in healthcare in the UK have to consider. There is this risk aversion, but that's not to say it's not possible to work with these healthcare organizations, with the regulators or with subject matter experts to overcome these obstacles and see them more as enablers for protecting citizens' privacy as opposed to barriers.
Thank you. What is your point of view, Susan?
So yeah, absolutely. I agree with Tom's points. I think one thing that certainly shifted in terms of how we approach the NHS or advise technology companies to gain market access is that often they are now looking at system level implementation. So there's a lot of movement towards integrating or adopting a technology as an integrated care system. So for those who aren't familiar, that's essentially a collection of provider hospitals or primary care or community services that have been brought together in a system with a single budget. And there are sort of movements towards system change, system-wide deployment of innovation. So for a technology company, although that's great commercially, but for a technology company, defining their value proposition for a population as opposed to an individual hospital can be quite challenging. So I find that certainly become a bit of a shift change recently in terms of how we work with companies. And I think, you know, the NHS being what it is and the risk aversion, I think Tom mentioned, there is always a need for technologies companies for having generated real world evidence within the NHS. So a company coming from outside the UK sometimes finds it hard to demonstrate its true efficacy or evidence itself, because people within the NHS wouldn't work like that here. So gaining traction and engagement with the NHS to build real world evidence is pretty critical in terms of supporting adoption. And of course, ultimately, you know, the cost. And we do some work with companies to sort of try and demonstrate sort of cost effectiveness and return on investment, etc.
You stress a very interesting point here. It's the difference between the direct user and indirect user. Well, the end user is the patient, but the indirect or different point of view you have at the hospital also. So that could be the opposite in some ways. That's what you want to say, or to...
Yes, definitely. How it affects one group of patients versus an entire population, or affects the system at one point versus along the entire care pathway can be very different. So you might move people along and improve something in one place, but the problem is just moved to a different place. So things like that have to be considered, the broad spectrum of how your innovation makes a change. And that is hard for a company coming alone, but is why organizations like UCL Partners or Tom as an independent consultant, you know, provide some advice there.
Thank you. I think that we have the same problem here in Quebec, in North America. If we jump to the other shore of the Atlantic Ocean with Philippe Jouvet, you're working with CHU Saint-Justine, and I will go back to my question. What are the main challenges you see in deploying innovation in the healthcare system, or in Saint-Justine, for instance?
Well, I am on the academic part, and my view is not really what has been discussed already. So that's what is nice.
We are working in the hospital in an environment. So you have a direct contact with the patient, and so you have.
So the main problem is to fit the needs I agree that the needs of the healthcare system is really not clear. You can have a need in an institution, and we have needs at Saint Justine. But if we develop if I develop an innovation, or if an industry comes with an innovation and I find it suitable for the institution, not sure that it will be suitable for other institution in Quebec or even wider. So it's really a problem to say how we can fit the needs of each institution with one innovation, and it's not clear. It's at the moment there is really a need to better define what are the needs of each institution. And when we say institution, it's a lot of services and on units, and these units and services have got their own needs. So we need after that to prioritize the innovation that we would like to see. And this work has not been done in institutions already. So when an innovator is coming, then he has to face all these contradictions that the needs are not known, but they are there because the patients are there. So that's the main gap I can see under the challenge. And the other one is on the side of the academician. It's that we are developing innovation technology that we believe that answer to the needs of the patients we are taking care, and we don't really know when we have to transfer our technology to industry. And this is the point is not well defined, and usually the question of the industry is saying is the need also elsewhere, and as it's not well defined, then we are not sure how to deal with that. So there is a risk there.
Marie-Pierre, I think that it's one of the main role or main aim for TransMedTech. It's how you can join the both world.
Exactly, this is what we try to do. That's why we're close to the user in the hospital, close to the clinician, the researcher, as well as the engineer. So the first thing we do when we are really at the stage of innovation inceptions. And when innovation came to us, our first steps is really to define, to determine the most significant problem to be solved. And we identify the hotspot or medical unmet needs when I'm talking to Philippe and to validate if really is an unmet needs that you have. And that could be solved, that can provide the most value. When we do that, after that, is to mobilize and to put around all the stakeholders very early on, involving in the co-creation mode, of course, is like roundtable, patents, user, specialists even in regulatory affairs, and other experts around the table to define what would be the contour of the project and what would be the track of the project. And that's the last step is really to gather the resources and the support around a project leader, like Philippe, for example, and accompanied and supervised by the TransMed team to facilitate the implementation and integrate the innovation in accordance with the healthcare system in Quebec. So this is what we try to do. To do so, we're supporting, of course, financially some of the projects. And by doing that, we try to avoid the main challenge, which is the implementation and adoption of innovation in real life situation. This is what we try to accomplish through project management. Of course, our path is close to the industry since we are ISO for medical device certified, so that helps us to understand the boundary and the challenge that industry may have when we transfer the innovation to companies and to commercialization.
Thank you very much. How can you help innovators to reach the market, overcoming regulatory or commercial hurdles? And let me rephrase it. Is innovation change regulatory system, or regulatory system doesn't want to change?
I think that goes on both levels. I think we have to adapt in both sides, because especially now with all the challenging numeric health is really a challenge for those agencies to know now if they're gonna put a 510K for a device or a 510K as well for software. So and they are changing, and I think they are listening to innovations as well for innovators to understand at what stage they are in these paradigm changes. And I think this is how we could reach each other the best, by listening and to have experts around the table that could help us and drive us to reach that goal. I don't know if that answers your questions.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much. Susie and Tom, same question to you. How you can help innovators to reach a market? What is your tools, if I can say?
I'll just start quickly, Tom, maybe. We're very lucky in the UK. I think there was a recognition that there was a challenge between a sort of commercially available technology and actually it being used within the NHS. There was a big gap, really. So there was a network of organisations set up called Academic Health Science Networks. UCL Partners is also one of them, but there are 15 all across England, and their primary objective really is to support innovation, get access to the NHS. So in terms of support available to innovators, I would certainly talk about the AHSNs, the acronym, as a very, very helpful vehicle to supporting uptake within the system. And they provide really tangible advice and guidance on what a company might need to do and areas of evidence that they need to build up to support adoption. And just other than that, I would certainly advise on considering other stakeholders within the UK that can support advise around priorities and system needs. So you have organisations like NHSX and others, but also bodies like Health Education England or HEE. They're doing a lot of work now around health innovation with the NHS and trying to understand how to structure and educate NHS workforce around innovation to support that kind of thing. And they often have some support and advice and guidance available to them as well.
And from your part, Tom, what are the main strengths of the UK to help innovators here?
Well, firstly, I'll say I do agree with everything that Susie has said there. And I think one of the most important things that innovators should do is to identify the kind of brokers in the UK who can support organizations to make connections and start to develop and pilot their innovations and products. And I'm also talking about the likes of life science hubs, who I've had very positive experience with in the UK, who have an interest in supporting economic stimulation in their local area, as well as government organisations like Québec office in London, who I think play a very important role in brokering these kind of partnerships and early conversations that lead to projects. In terms of UK strengths, and forgive me, Frederic, for going on a tangent, in terms of UK strengths, I think the UK has a very pro-business environment. I think, you know, this is probably arguable, but we are known to be the tech capital of Europe. We have a world-leading research and innovation infrastructure. Susie mentioned the academic health science networks. I mentioned life science hubs, and there's a whole host of accelerators within the NHS, outside the NHS, incubators, catapults, a number of different infrastructures to support that pipeline of development. We're home to big pharma organizations, GSK, AstraZeneca, who have obviously played a really important role in COVID response. We've been able to mobilize our COVID response as a result of that. We're extraordinarily strong in terms of data as well. And I think when we're talking about AI, that's one of the most compelling reasons for organizations wanting to work with the UK. We have a massively untapped resource of data. NHS and other organizations are starting to think about how they can capitalize on that and start to work more with organizations in the private sector, but in the public sector as well, who are wanting to leverage that data to improve patient outcomes and also meet commercial interests as well. So I think there's a dual benefit to leveraging that data that organizations should want to make use of.
Thank you, Tom. Marie-Pierre, Philippe, for you who are living in Canada, what are the main strengths from your part?
Yeah, I can start. Well, the first one is that we can provide a living lab that helps in testing new innovations and adapt them to the health system that is in North America. And we are a kind of bridge on the North American market, because we have a health system that is organized quite the same across Canada and US. But of course, it's not the same health system, because it's a public health system, but the organization of the care are quite the same. So it's a bit different from Europe, where I'm coming from. So this part is really important when you want to go into a market to understand how it works in the different institutions. Our strength is also about the culture of innovation. And for example, in Quebec, we have included in our institutions a unit dedicated to innovation evaluation that is directly connected to the CEO. So if you come with an innovation and propose it to an institution, we have the ability to evaluate on literature and on data that you are providing, and give you an information about its usefulness. As I told you, it's not a strength, and we are working on that, is to define really our needs, and then to be able to connect the needs with the new innovation that are proposed. And there is a lot of a network that are organized to help innovators. We have fundings, we have a regulatory support, and Marie-Pierre will speak about that. But as a researcher working with companies, I have many solutions to find fundings to help. I can say MedTech prompt the Ministry of Economy and Innovation that helps with the specific fundings that is called FSI-SSS. These fundings are to test with a company a device across several institutions and to see if it fits with the need. So you can have fundings for that. You need to have a collaboration between academic researchers, clinical researcher, and the company to have access to these funds. But this exists, and one of our forces is to find a leader that can help to create this match, getting this fund and doing the testing inside the healthcare system. I don't know, Marie-Pierre, if you want to say more.
I just want a few words saying that we are part of an ecosystem, and this ecosystem really strong. We could call it a village. We talk to each other, we collaborate with each other, so that helps us to leverage and to address the best need with the best solutions for the user, as well clinician or patients. And that will conclude my comment.
Thank you very much. Question for you all: are there some quick wins to help to accelerate your innovation ecosystems? And I would say that especially following the pandemic, because it changed also maybe the needs to innovate and maybe to push boundaries in that way. Is that correct to say so? Susie, I see you say yes, so I will let you answer first.
Yeah, no, I'd certainly say, I mean, there's no doubt that the pandemic accelerated adoption of innovation, particularly obviously digital innovation and digital infrastructure. And there are lots of efforts to try and maintain what has changed positively, and to ensure that things don't fall back to kind of very inefficient ways of working. I think going forward in terms of the quick wins, I mean, they're never that straightforward, but 100% focus for the NHS and the work we are doing as an organisation now is around COVID recovery. So everything that didn't happen in the NHS that should have happened during the pandemic, you know, massive waiting lists, huge problems with elective surgery backlogs, etc. You know, that's absolutely a priority now in terms of any new health tech, any new innovation. So in terms of a quick win, if you have a technology that can support with elective recovery, you know, absolutely it's time to work with the UK. And along those lines, huge health inequalities in terms of system access, patients being able to access fair healthcare were highlighted during the pandemic. So it's really, really important that health innovations actually and new technologies consider health inequalities when approaching the market. And I think, you know, looking again in the future, the NHS has a commitment to net zero, carbon net zero by 2050. We advise all companies now to show evidence or have considered the environmental impact of their innovation on technologies when approaching NHS markets. So in terms of considering developing innovation, still, you know, not commercially ready yet, do consider the environmental impact and how that will affect your market access proposition and broad value proposition for the NHS.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. We have 2 minutes left before wrap up the panel. But Tom, what is your quick win you could say to accelerate innovation ecosystems?
Yes, certainly. I think knowledge sharing. We've done a huge amount of groundwork in the NHS pre-pandemic, but also during the pandemic to support digital innovation in the UK. NHSX is one example of an organisation that's been creating sets of standards, frameworks, and really trying to create the appropriate market conditions for organisations to innovate here in a safe and sensible way. So I think that kind of knowledge sharing is very important, and certainly Canada could you know, borrow some of those templates or learn from them at least to save some time.
Thank you, Tom. Marie-Pierre.
I think the pandemic, in a way, have accelerated what we are doing because just project and we had even at St. Justine and others push us to be agile, which we were not maybe more stepwise before, and that's create some simulation and emulations, and we already have the results in different aspects in hospitals to what we have support. I think that's what the pandemic have accelerated in a way what our way of doing things. We became more agile.
More agile. Okay, Philippe, do you concur?
Well, the problem with your sentence is quick. You see, quick on innovation, it's a bit problematic when you speak about health, because we spoke about regulatory aspects and we need to go through that. So there was some acceleration of regulatory aspect for pandemics, specifically for pandemics, and Health Canada did a lot for that. But we don't speak of very quick. You see, it's well, if it's a medical device class 1, then you can go right away, and it's quite easy. We did it. But as soon as you are a class 2 or 3 or even 4, then you have to follow the usual rules, and then it takes more time. So the pandemic only accelerated for a small part of what we can do. It has mobilized everybody in the institutions and in the research institutions to trying to find solutions that may help. So there is a mobilization of researchers so that we can benefit of that. Access to data is increasing. It was no access to data before, and now we know that we need to have this access. So there is work on that. It's not finished. So in Quebec, we move forward. There is a lot of data lake that are creating, and we know how to create contract with institutions to have the connections and give them access to this data, but it takes time.
Thank you, Philippe. It was the final word, and it's time to wrap up. Time's up, and I will let Jean-Christian to resume this panel. And thank you very much to all of you, really, for sharing your knowledge, point of view, and sharing your all you have to say this morning. Really, it was a pleasure for me to moderate this panel. Jean-Christian, let you the floor. Thank you.
Many thanks, Frédéric, for the expert moderation of the panel, and to Suzy, Marie-Pierre, Philippe, and Tom for your generous insights. I was especially impressed by the discussion on the strengths of the ecosystem, and I think there was a lot more to be said on that, but unfortunately we're constrained with time. But we have a very exciting second part coming up with pitches from exciting startups from Quebec. So it is now my pleasure to invite Christian Lancereau from Perceive AI to the stage to highlight what they're doing.
Thank you very much. So hi, everyone. I'm Christian Lancereau. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Perceive AI. We are a precision medicine company forecasting disease progression. Next, please. Okay. So age-related disease are an urgent public health crisis for which we are badly equipped. Currently, dementia costs $350 billion a year and is projected to triple by 2050. We diagnose individuals too late in the disease, and the lifetime cost of these delays cost about $7 trillion. And the drugs that we are developing to alleviate those diseases don't get through clinical trials with a very high failure rate of 99.6%. Next. So these problems are due mainly to the variability of disease progression and an inability to predict patient evolution. So that caused delays in diagnosis and basically waiting several years for symptoms to deteriorate to give a final diagnosis, missing the optimal treatment window. In clinical trials, that high variability basically impact the enrollment of patients in clinical trials, leading to high risk of failure. Next. So Perceive AI solution is a machine learning engine to forecast disease progression. We leverage multimodal data such as imaging, cognitive tests, genomic, and blood work, and use that holistic information to feed to our prognostic engine to make, in turn, individual disease progression forecasting. Next. That forecast has the potential to de-risk, can you go back, please? To de-risk clinical trials, shorten times to diagnosis, and ultimately improve patient outcome. Next. So the products that we are providing are a forecasting tool for Alzheimer's disease currently, and more specifically, cognitive decline forecasting. These tools have been extensively validated across thousands of individuals and published in international venues, as well as we've established market validation with pharmaceutical companies. In clinical trials, we can use these products to improve likelihood of trial success and lowering costs. We can reduce sample size required for these trials by up to 50%. And in the clinic, these same products can be used to identify and refer high quality patients to clinical trials. We can also use it to support doctors in providing patients with a timely diagnosis, basically providing these tools as clinical decision support tools. Next. So our team is uniquely qualified to address this problem and build a solution for it. We have decades worth of research experience in developing biomarkers for neurological disease. We have PhDs in AI and neuroscience, and we are backed by world-renowned key opinion leaders in machine learning and neurodegenerative disease. Notably, we are supported by computer science professor and Turing Award winner, Professor Yeshua Ben-Gvir. So please reach out if you want to have more information, and thank you very much for your attention.
Many thanks, Christian. I'm now delighted to introduce Nicolas Tremblay from Neurocerveau. So the floor is yours, Nicolas.
Nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm Nicolas Tremblay, founder of Neurocerveau. So it's nice to be on this panel today. I remarked that all of your the attendee there are some of my helper to build this company. We started in 2015, and we already work with Transpectec, the CHU, Saint Justin, Prompt. So every here, I need to say thank you for that. So on the next slide, we'll explain, sorry. Okay, what are we addressing at Neurocerveau? In ICU now, and in Europe, I think they call reanimation room. So when an intensivist asks for an EEG for a patient, the mean time before the EEG it's installed on the patient, it's around 4 hours during the daytimes and around 11 hours during the nighttime. And some hospital doesn't have EEG teams. So what's caused this delay? It's mostly the manpower of the hospital. You need a specialized EEG technician to install on the patient. And after that, you need a neurologist or someone to review the EEG time. So if we go on the next slide. So here is what we propose. You need to know that some pathology like seizure, when you have them, you need to introduce to the patient, inject to the patient, anticonvulsive within 1 hour to reduce risk for the brain. So this kind of missing of huge delay before the diagnostic and cause a huge problem for the doctor. So we introduce our solution. It's really a 2 minutes install device, an EEG device that sends data through a tablet. And with this device, it can be installed by the nurse, by the doctor itself. You don't need the EEG specialist for this. So on the next slide, you see that how the device can be installed on a patient. We have monitoring mode. That's mean for the nurses or for the doctor during the intubation patient. You can really monitor what's happening, and you have a view if a seizure happened, or you have a view also of the sedation when you need to inject anticonvulsive and go down with the sedation after that. So we have an expert mode for neurologist or expert. On the next slide. All of this device since 2015, we passed all the certification. We talked earlier about the regulation process. So this has been a big part of Neurocerveau, became an ISO 13485 certified manufacturer and designer of EEG. So we own everything, we develop everything, and now we are included in different hospitals like the CHU Saint Justin, and let's say the Chemin Montreal, the CHU at Nantes. And next page.
Can I ask you to wrap up very quickly, please? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I need to thank you, everyone, for the help on this. And this is the solution that come out from this ecosystem. Thank you.
Many thanks, Nicolas. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Jean-Simon Fortin from Paper Plane Therapeutics. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the invitation. So we are virtual reality digital therapeutics for pain and anxiety management. And I'm a CEO and co-founder, also an ER physician. So thank you for being here today. Next slide, please. So the basis for the creation of this company was really a problem I had as a clinician. So pain and anxiety management in patient undergoing medical procedures was a real issue. And for a number of reasons, pharma solutions were either generated too much side effects or did not achieve a proper managed pain and anxiety management. There's also limited availabilities of non-pharma therapies. And we all know that inadequate pain and anxiety management results in significant waste of resources for health organization. And sometimes just asking the healthcare professionals to take care of that is just too much, as they are already overburdened by their work. And of course, this generates a lot of costs for organizations and hospitals and everyone. Next slide, please. So our solution is really a digital therapeutic platform leveraging VR solutions to reduce pain, anxiety before, during, and after a procedure. So we're currently working on 4 different products that are all in different stages in the pipeline. So we have for pre-procedures, namely MRI in children. So we have Imagine, which is a desensitization and simulation of an MRI that also collects data and will eventually give a score to help clinicians know which patients needs to be sedated and which can go without any sedations to reduce the burden on the healthcare organization. Staying with the children, we have Dream for the during procedures, so to reduce pain and anxiety during your medical procedures. It's the one that we're currently deploying for the vaccination campaign in children 5 to 11, and it's working really well right now in vaccination clinics to help them with the management of, for vaccination, it's mostly anxiety, but also with the pain of the shot. And so we have for adults the Imagine product coming also for adults, and then we're working also with the adult population for just anxiety and pain management, which will be also incorporating breathing exercises with the use of a sensor. Next slide, please. So we have proven results. So we conducted trials at Shushenjutsen, which really were the starting point of the company, and so we were able to show 80% reduction in of anxiety. Sorry, in 80% of cases there was a significant reduction in anxiety, significant reduction of pain in 50% of cases. In 30% of cases, there was no pain reported at all, and then 100% staff acceptability. Also, we demonstrated significant reduction in procedure time and success on first try. So overall, very, very encouraging. Next slide, please.
Can I ask you to wrap up very quickly, please?
Yes. So basically, our approach is really the delivery mechanism. So the VR headset with the tablet for the professionals, which is really easy to use, and also the active ingredient, which is the software that we developed over the years. Next slide, please. And I'll skip to that. So basically, I would like to thank everyone, and thank you for the time today.
Many thanks, Jean-Simon. It is now my pleasure to invite Catherine Lunardi from Genèse to the stage. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Today, I'll explain what the platform Genèse is, and I'll leave a few seconds at the end of my presentation for Philip Webb, who we're working with to deploy the solution in Wales, to give a few words to voice his support for the project. So what Genèse does basically is provide a searchable database that connects region, countries, professionals together so that they can share their innovation-related data. So it's based on machine learning, natural language processing, and it represents information in the form of innovation. Next slide, please. So this is the search screen for Genèse. So you can see that each innovation is represented by a card, and this information is linked to any public database where we find something relevant for the user to consult. Next slide, please. So the use case that we're working on with the Neuro and in Quebec and Respiratory Innovation Wales is the following. So right now we're spending a lot of money, the waste, trying to reinvent the wheel, reproduce existing innovation, because it's really hard to find out what's been done, especially for those innovation that has not been published yet. So our goal is really to present the Neuro and Respiratory Innovation Wales with a simple tool that will allow them to classify, ingest the information they already have, and share it so that we can remove innovation silos and accelerate innovation between different entities and within these entities. Next slide, please. So this is the screen that represents an innovation, for instance. So we could see that all the documents have been mapped automatically by the machine learning and is fully searchable. And Ask Jen, our unique assistant, will produce to the user and the innovator with relevant information so that they can accelerate the whole process. Genèse also offers a way to create a new innovation. So if I'm thinking about an idea I want to explore, I could put it into Genèse, and Genèse starts working, trying to see if there's something else that was developed either internally within another instance, or in a public database. I'll leave Philip say a few words and voice his support. Philip?
Thank you, Catherine. So there's a very basic so what question, okay? So we worked out in Wales that we're spending significant amounts, up to millions of pounds of taxpayer monies on duplication of innovation. We've done recent surveys in Wales proving this. Importantly, there are 8 health boards who are very interested in reducing the amount of human resources and cash waste we're spending on largely reinventing wheels, if only we could have insight into what was actually being developed on an international basis, or even federated on a local basis. And I think the true strength of this is the ability to federate knowledge around different ecosystems. So as we do searches in Wales, any network partner can also see the results of searches, whether they be in Canada, in Europe, in Australasia, or in any Western or other country.
And I will ask you now to wrap up very quickly, please.
Yeah, bottom line is I've got 8 health boards and a life sciences hub in Wales who are very keen to see this product being developed to be deployed. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Catherine and Philip. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Émeric Guy from Technology Life Engine. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jean-Christophe. So hi, my name is Émeric. I'm the co-founder of Life Engine, and our mission is to accelerate excellence and innovation in surgery by providing accessible technological tools. Next slide, please. Even today, surgeons perform an intervention for the first time directly on patients because they don't have efficient tools for practice. Existing solutions in medical simulation, like high-fidelity mannequins, they fail to offer the dynamism and high-volume training they need for complex surgeries. They are also very expensive, which makes them difficult to access for the medical team. By working directly with surgeons, we identified 3 key unmet needs: easy access to high-volume practice, complex physiological dynamism, and performance tracking. These are at the core of our solution. Next slide, please. Our surgical simulator reproduces pulsatile blood flow with precise hemodynamics like arterial pressure and heartbeat. It can be easily connected to any anatomical model, like a synthetic organ, a mannequin, or a cadaver. The simulation session is recorded and analyzed by a computer vision application to measure performance, and a personalized report will present the learner's progress and allows to efficiently target the next training sessions. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah. So in the past year, we've successfully reproduced physiological blood flow in over 20 cadavers and synthetic organs to enable surgical training in a highly realistic environment. For the first time, we offer an easy access to the real dynamic conditions of a patient and enable surgeons to test approaches and practice complex scenarios. Our solution is built to help them save lives faster and better. Next slide, please. So medical simulation is a fast-growing market expected to reach over $3 billion in the next 5 years. We entered this market by selling to simulation centers that provide our solutions to 3 major streams: education, medtech, and the military. Next, we started by setting up a paid trial period creditable at purchase, where we work with our clients to develop their simulation protocols around our devices. We then ensure recurrence through consumables, app licenses, and maintenance. Next, please. Our co-development approach with surgical teams in key medical institutions is one of our biggest strengths. We currently lead projects with key institutions in Montreal, like McGill, the CHUM, and the Montreal Heart Institute. We have secured sales and paid trials in Canada and in France, and we are currently certifying our simulator for full CE marking. Next. This is all possible thanks to an amazing team of PhDs, engineers, designers, AI scientists, and clinical experts. Next. Yeah, so thank you for your attention and follow us to help unlock surgical excellence for better quality of care for all. Thank you.
Many thanks, Emeric. I'd like to thank all our presenters for giving us a glimpse of their exciting startups. Please feel free to reach out to them if you'd like to explore opportunities together. As we have a hard stop, I'm going to go very quickly to conclude. Please allow me a few parting remarks. I'd like to thank once again our panelists, moderators, and presenters for joining us today. Marie-Pierre, Frédéric, and Damien for the organization, One Nucleus for providing us such a wonderful platform, and you, the audience, for attending. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. That was amazingly spot on. So I won't waste your time. Thanks for joining. This is recorded, available on demand. And as Jean-Christian said, please reach out to delegates who are on the Genesis app or to Jean-Christian and the team on the app or tomorrow on site at Genesis. So there are more innovation workshops, more on-demand content on the app if you are interested to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing you either online or in person. Thanks very much.
Merci.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.